we are now going to have a very special session. It's a panel, but it's also a summit. And it is all about business prototyping, a very important topic for everybody in this room. So congratulations to every single one of you. You are going to get the inside scoop. You're going to get the knowledge about business prototyping. And we have 4 thought leaders who are going to join us on stage. So in order, I'm going to first welcome to the stage our wonderful moderator for the session. He's a partner and CEO at NOBA. Please welcome Blai Saladich to the stage. Welcome, Blai. Yes. Molbay, Molbay. Excellent. Fantastic. Yes, and if you are colleagues, make sure to make some extra noise for everybody come on stage. I love it. That's brilliant. Okay, next we're going to welcome to the stage the Director of Consumer Culinary Experience at the mighty Kraft Heinz. Please welcome Christel Adam. Bienvenue. I love it. There's still people coming in. There are seats available. Please make yourselves at home. We're going to kick off real soon. Next up to the stage, please welcome the Head of Business Innovation at the mighty AXA Next. Please welcome Yann Bry. Welcome, Yann. And rounding off our quartet of awesomeness, we have the Head of User Experience at Imagin, Cristian Farres Grau. Molbay. Okay.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, full house, sold out. Don't look around. It's full. There's a lot of people in the audience. We're very happy to host the second Business Prototyping Summit here at the Mobile World Congress 4 years from now. Now, business prototyping, for those of you who might not know what it is, it's a set of tactics, techniques, but most importantly, a mindset to make sure you increase your chances of success in innovation, which, as you know, is risky, and things don't always turn out right. Now, I'm not going to reintroduce our audience, but you might have heard that we have somebody from Imagin Bank, a neobank that was launched by CaixaBank, one of Spain's largest banks. So I would even consider a success story of innovation because it's now been spun out and has around 4 million customers, if I'm not mistaken. We have somebody from an insurance company, AXA. This is the global innovation unit at AXA, works globally to make sure that innovation happens within the business units. And then the Director of Consumer Culinary Experience at a food company. Now, somebody from a neobank, somebody from an insurance, and somebody from food. It sounds like the beginning of the joke, but I'm sure that here we're going to be looking at what are the common themes and common best practices that make sense in making innovation happen. Not necessarily the tactics, but most importantly, how and what can be done to make sure we turn out successful. So I'll begin with a very easy question. Maybe, Christel, you might want to start next. Within your organization, how do you measure success, right? You work with all the business units, you work globally. How would you measure success in the consumer culinary experience team?
Yeah, it's not an easy one because, as you said, it's a mindset more than anything else. So it's how do you put metrics behind mindset? So within Kraft Heinz, we took 4 different metrics. One is about agility in terms of ways of working and governance, which automatically for a metric we correlate with speed. The other one is consumer value proposition. Make sure that you deliver something that the consumer wants. And this metric is more around consumer surveys and feedback. The third one is more around pivoting. So how do we make sure that we pivot on time? And this one is also associated to the budget you put in the project, either it's a win or it's something where you can learn from. And last but not least is the scale-up. So how many internal stakeholders we have on board with us when we are going to launch the new innovation. So this is the way we look at it in a nutshell.
So it's not necessarily the results of the innovations themselves. No, I would imagine that Imagin Bank, having your own P&L, right? You've spun off.
Yeah.
Bringing money in the door is probably an important metric.
It's one of our metrics, but honestly, we are quite young or quite junior in this innovation stage, but the idea is that we want to get very close to our customers. So our main metrics now is customer success, engagement, and I would say acquisition. So, but honestly, I think that we are rethinking, but because we need to improve this sense, the metrics that we are using. But yes, revenue is something that we cannot avoid on this stage.
And yourself, Yann, how would you measure success at AXA?
So I run a global innovation unit in AXA. So my clients are the opcos, the companies. So AXA France, AXA Germany, AXA Italy, whatever. So we measure essentially innovation through the impact. So the impact has several metrics associated to it. One is the scale. So how much business you're going to make, whether it's savings or growth, plus how many countries you'll be able to scale your solution to. And the second part is really on novelty, because we want to be able to introduce startups or ways of working that haven't been used in AXA to leapfrog competition and to solve in an innovative way the problems we are given.
All right, interesting. So it's kind of like you two are pressured by the lead measures, things you can actually act upon, and you're pressured by the lag measures. So how much engagement and probably money comes in through the door. I don't know if that means that you have more pressure. I would imagine not, because you need to align internally with all the business units, no? How do you, I guess that's not something you need to struggle with. So how do you usually work to align the business units and to tell the company, this is what we need to start doing, and understanding that maybe money's not coming in next month through the door, but we need to be a little bit patient. How do you align internally?
So innovation at AXA has about a 6-8 years history, and we've gone through a lot of variations, and we tried a lot of things. So I'm not saying we have the right recipe, but we know how to fail, and we corrected. One of the things that didn't work definitely was to launch big innovation topics outside of the business and then try to plug that back to the business after, because our businesses, they wouldn't buy it, and sometimes they would even see it as competition, internal competition with their own willingness to innovate. So what we're doing now, which is, so we have several ways to innovate still. One could be to build some ventures, but it's not the majority. In the majority of cases now, what we do is that we have the businesses that own actually part of my team, so they invest in innovation.
Okay.
And because they invest, they have a say about the topics.
Okay.
And we have communities of countries that define some topics. So they ask us to solve a problem about how you pay faster the claims of the customers that have a problem, for example, or how you improve the underwriting models with external data and things like that. So we take those business problems that are very well defined, and then we reach out to the market. We find startups, we find ways to solve it. We find we do business prototyping to not invest too much at the beginning, but really understand what we're doing.
But let me pull from that thread a little bit, because obviously if you're going to be answering to the business problems now, you'll probably be staying close to the core. I remember yesterday you discussed a success case, which is AXA Climate, right? So parametric insurance. So insurance that if it rains a lot and you're a farmer, or it doesn't rain enough, this insurance automatically triggers, and I imagine that is something that is working now in a success case. So these things that are maybe not solving current problems in the business units, how do you not force them, but how do you get the business units to adopt them?
So first we have the countries are our stakeholders, but we have the group as well, and the group is always looking for the next moonshots and the new things that will be a bit beyond the kind of core innovation. That's one thing. And then as an innovation team, we can suggest, and we try to suggest a lot of things, and we pitch what we see, the trends that are coming. Of course, big trends such as AI or sustainability, for example, are core themes that we try to push to the business regularly. But what we don't do is that we work in isolation. We don't work in isolation from an ivory tower without the engagement of the business.
Christel, you don't sell insurance.
No.
You sell food.
Exactly.
How do you align the chefs and the culinary world and these business units?
Yeah, so I would say we are still in a journey on this one. And in addition, my department is part of R&D, even if we are making the link in between the business and R&D. So we have this balance between something which needs to be ready tomorrow for the BUs and something which we need to work on for the next years to make sure that our pipeline is not empty in a few years. So the way we do it, we do bottom up and top down. So for everything which is more about creating a new innovation which doesn't need automatically a very I would say, a very evoluted technology. Then we will go bottom up, so we will collect all the needs from all the BUs, and we will see which are the topics which are the most similar with all BUs. And then in general, we select a few pilot countries, which then will come and get the other countries to come on board. When it's about technology, we do it the other way around, which is more, we start working on the technology on the back of the scene, I would say. And then very quickly, we start to put together what we call the technology value proposition. So really starting to show at an early stage what the technology can deliver for the BU, so we can get them on board and we can make sure that they put it in their strat plan for the following years. So it's a little bit in between both.
All right. And Cristian, I imagine for you, there's maybe less alignment with outside stakeholders, but internally you probably have a backlog of things you want to launch to make sure you increase that engagement. How do you choose what to focus on?
Well, basically what we do at Imagin is we have 2 chapters dedicated to looking for innovation. One is totally focused on innovation, which is the open platform chapter, that is basically looking for new synergies with young startups, would say, that could have products or functionalities that could fit on our fintech layer, because as a neobank, we are not only a bank, we have a fintech layer. And my team is one of my challenges is trying to innovate within the functionalities that we are giving to our customers and users. And our mission is to stay close to them and trying to gather as much feedback as we can to reshape our products. And how we choose, I would say that it depends on business needs. It depends on because the bank paradigm is changing every year. We depend on how the interests are rising, so we depend a lot on the market. So we need to stay very aligned with business, and sometimes it's a question of deciding what is the best interest at that moment for the company.
Okay. And this is perhaps a question more for you to be with all the alignment, right? So you've convinced France, Spain, different business units to implement something, and you notice it's not working. Can you kill it straight away? Is it easy? How do you do it?
That's a very good question. You were talking about pivoting. That's the essence of innovation, because of course you're trying things and you're never sure it's going to work. So we're de-risking innovation because we know we're working on real problems, but you never know if it's the good solution that you apply to this problem. So the best answer is that we work a bit like coaches to our business units. So we're able to tell them, but they have the last say, but we're able to tell them, we think it's not matching the customer's needs, we think it's not innovative enough, we've seen better things, but at the end of the day, they make the last call. That's where I think techniques such as business prototyping is key, because what you want is to reduce the funnel effect and the moment between, okay, we have a problem to solve, and the long investment and all the long solutioning that is needed to solve that business. So what we do is we quickly go to the market with even a solution that is not perfect, far from it, but we get that feedback and we're able to influence the business in a much more direct way with direct feedback from the customer.
Yeah, but let me continue a little bit here, because I remember once speaking to the head of a large company and saying, no, failure and success, because you fail once, you learn, and then you succeed. And so wait a minute, maybe you need to fail and fail and fail and fail, and how do you convince saying, we've already killed 5 projects we've been working on, no worries, the 6th might be the successful one. How do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit like you, which is business prototyping is the key here. A few years ago, I have a team of chefs and consumer experience people. And a few years ago, they were separated. We decided to merge them because the power of this is to be able to put a prototype in the hand of a consumer as soon as possible. And this is really the strengths when you go in those kind of iteration, because you can really kill something at a very, very early stage, or you can even pivot. So, and you also embark the BUs. So if we test something, we test in their BUs, so they have a direct feedback from consumers. and then we pivot together or we kill together. So it's
All right.
working well.
If I may just, one thing we're trying to do, I'm not saying we're doing that systematically, but we're trying to put some value in front of the failures. What I mean by that is that there's a project, for example, which is predictive justice. We help our claims handlers to understand in bodily injury damages how much they should pay, whether we should go to court, we should pay upfront, etc. We use models to do that, and in some countries it works, like in France, in Germany. In some countries, like Belgium, doesn't work because you have two different legal systems, etc. But the fact that we quickly did a prototype, we decided not to go with Belgium down that route, is for us something very valuable because they didn't have to invest into something very costly that would have little benefit. So the ability to say quickly, okay, there's not enough benefit, let's not do it, is something we're trying to value as part of what we deliver.
Yeah, I believe it was DuPont or one of these big innovators that every time something fails, they hold a big funeral and make a big fuss out of it because then you're taking away some of the stigma of saying, oh no, we failed, we're making a big thing out of it. Now, Cristian, you don't have chefs, nor do you necessarily sell insurance. You're probably having to kill, maybe you try one thing, it doesn't work, one thing doesn't work. Does CaixaBank come knocking at your door and say, wait a minute, are you trying too many things?
No, the thing is that, well, actually, we have a very lean approach to everything that we do. Actually, because we are a digital product, sometimes it's quite more easy to build and reshape things. So this approach of build, measure, learn is something that is very intrinsic in our ADN. So yes, sometimes you need to say that this is not working. We need to accept, actually we accept the risk, we accept that we fail, and we try to learn from that. And honestly, CaixaBank is quite flexible on us with that. Because actually we are kind of testing platform as well for them. So sometimes they have something that they want to create, and we are kind of very good an agile platform test for them. So it's
all right. And if you have this backlog and they come in saying, "Hey, we want to try this," do you make them wait, or you say, "I need to"?
Well, I wouldn't.
You can't say it on stage.
Cannot say. No.
All right. So we're going to take a few questions from the audience in a little bit. So if anybody has some questions you might want to ask our panelists, please feel free. But before that, I'd like to go on. And I remember yesterday discussing some interesting things around the models that you have. You mentioned you've tried, as you said, venture studio, like building own ventures. Didn't seem to work that much. Maybe AXA Climate is one example, but it's maybe not the best way to go. You mentioned more the venture client model, working with startups. How does that work?
Yeah. So
and if there's any startups maybe here in the audience, how would they need to work?
So AXA is a big company, so there's no one way to innovate. But you're right that we invested a lot at the beginning, a few years ago, on a venture studio and venture building from scratch. It's very capital intensive. When you're a public traded company, you don't have sometimes all the time to wait. You don't have the patience to nurture those ventures as long as it would be needed. And for those reasons, and then the last one is that you never manage to plug it back to the business, as I was saying at the beginning. So for that reason, most of the time it's too costly and it's too risky, it fails. We're not good at that. So we still do that, but on more on exceptions. We have also some corporate venture unit, but it's more financial. It's taking minority stakes in startups.
Does that work? Is that working, or?
It's working, but from a financial perspective.
Okay.
But it's not, again, not very strategic. It's not necessarily linking to the business and transforming the business. So the way we transform the business in 80% of the cases is that we killed everything that was what I would call startup tourism, where the big shots, the XComs, etc., were meeting startups. Okay, let's meet OpenAI, let's meet this, let's meet those guys, the new kids on the block. That was completely useless. So what we're doing now is really making sure we're spending enough time to have the right business problems, making sure we understand them well, have the business problems across several countries, so 2-3 countries that can be pilots, and then we're contacting startups, but with a clear business for them to try to help with. So it's much more efficient than to select the right ones with our opcos, and we're not even investing upfront in the startups. That's hence the term venture clienting, because we're just clients. But it's the best of both worlds, in the sense that we have markets, we have size, we have industry knowledge, and startups, they have technology that can help solve part of that those problems, and it's a pretty good match. That's the best way we found how to really scale innovation inside the group.
It's been working. In case of Kraft Heinz, is it always you trying to build the next new thing, trying to protect your ketchup from all sides, or do you find new things and you're like, oh, maybe I want that, and you're able to?
Yeah. So in fact, we have two models at Kraft Heinz. We have one model which is more the one I just described, which is with my team, which is more focused on our core. So our core is really, as you were saying, ketchup, mayo, condiments, and how we can bring the next core within the company. And we have another business model, which is called our new venture team, which is an internal team, which is more working on new growth areas. Those are more going into other topics on how we can extend on other categories of products. And they do directly some D2C here to test some ideas before we decide if we want to make them core. And the last model is M&A, so merge and acquisition. So if we really want to go in something where we felt it's a new growth area of interest, we might go then into an acquisition of a smaller company.
All right, okay. And in your case, I guess it's always internally, or maybe with some...
Yeah, we basically, with the chapter of Open Platform, what we try to do is when we find some, or any company that can have a product or functionality that we could be interested in, we just try to create a POC, a proof of concept of that, and see if this could work on our fintech. Most of the time it's done in our fintech layer, because our portfolio related to bank comes from CaixaBank, obviously. So what we try to do is, what I'm saying is creating a POC, see how it works, and then we decide if we just implement it.
Okay, let me pick that a little bit. So when you say a POC, so a proof of concept, in your case you said it's chefs working with consumers in front. In your case, how do you manage that? You have 4 million customers. What does a proof of concept with them look like?
Well, actually we have everything like tagged, so we can just deploy something in a few number of customers or few number of users that we know that have these or these characteristics, and we just show them, see how it is performing, take metrics on that, and or even discard it, or just reshaping or
Have you ever had something you've tested on a small segment and it was a completely big screw up? How do you manage that then internally? Or you just say, no, scratch it, whatever, we shove it under the door? How do you manage big screw-ups in testing with little groups of something that really doesn't work?
Well, actually, it's about reshaping it. So the thing is that we select a number of users we want to show it, or maybe we do it like with user techniques, like doing panels or A/B testing that are not deployed on production. We have like panels of users
So even before exposing to the full market. Yann, it seems that CaixaBank, so a large bank, a large financial company, needed to spin this off. I don't know if it was necessary to spin you guys off to try to do some of these things. You mentioned you're not trying to do venture building because then it's hard to plug it back in. Is it always necessary to do something like this? Pull this innovation with a P&L. When is it necessary to do so?
So I think probably I don't think you need necessarily to have separate ventures to nurture innovation, but you need to work with a different mindset and to protect the team, to kind of incubate a team that doesn't work in the core mindset and the core culture of the company. So when I pitched my team to, there was a change of boss 1 year and a half ago. I had a new boss, and my pitch to him was the way we're bringing value to this company is because we have one foot inside, so we're able to understand the problems that you're bringing to us, and one foot outside because we're close to the startups and to this new world that we need to connect to. And if we're too close to the inside, then we will look too much like your own teams. Yeah. So we don't add enough value. If we're too outside, if we spend our times in these kind of conferences only, then we're not relevant to understand the real business problems, so we cannot help solve them concretely. So I think you need something that is very special to create an innovation unit that you need to nurture, and you need to think about the career path of the people that join you, etc. But it doesn't need to have its own P&L naturally. In your case, it makes a lot of sense because it's a different segment, and you are pretty successful. You have a lot of customers. It can make sense, but it's not the only model, I think.
Okay. No, actually, in our case, I think that it wouldn't work that well if we haven't a spin of CaixaBank, because it was like a very good platform to launch the project, but arrive at the moment that we were growing so massively, we needed like to continue apart from them, being part of the group, but as a startup mindset, would say. That's what we try to keep as well.
Okay, all right. We have just a few minutes left, so I'd like to take the opportunity if there's any questions from the audience that you might want to ask. Yes, the gentleman over there.
Thank you a lot for sharing your inspiring way of business prototyping. I would like to...
If you can take the mic, please. You have just behind you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you a lot for sharing your practices. I would like to have your feedbacks or how you introduce in business prototyping the way how you can transform your business to be more sustainable, to have a more positive impact on socially and environmentally, and how do you create a new value for your business in this field?
All right, tough question. Christel, you want to get started?
Well, I mean, I would say in our case, we are really into the innovation of products. The key success factor, and I'm not sure I completely answer to your question, so let me know if it's not the case. The main success factor is indeed the scale-up. So everything we do in the process of the business prototyping as such, we make sure that within the different steps, we already interact with other partners outside of the company to make sure that whenever we need to deliver big volumes, we are ready to do it, and it's not just a prototype, and then it takes ages to get on the market. So this is one of the key success factors, I would say, to make something sustainable in terms of business.
No, I wonder if you mean sustainable also in terms of environment, no? Yeah. And I think this goes to line also with the consumer. You mentioned before the consumer metrics. If consumers are asking for more sustainable solutions or products, then I guess you naturally will align to that. And that will be your metric. Are sustainable-minded consumers liking my product or services better? Does that resonate?
Yeah, of course it does. I think the role of an innovation team is really to future-proof the business. So future-proofing the business is, to me, is helping it go towards more sustainable, inclusive insurance in our case. So we have two types of projects. Some are really in that field, and we are trying to help build new value propositions with, for example, we have one in Ireland that is about energy transition. So it helps you, it's beyond insurance, it helps you find the right contractors to do the retrofitting of your home, find the right funding, and has some parametric insurance product associated. So if you don't have the right temperature for your heat pump or for your solar panels, you get some reimbursement. So we have those kind of projects, and our role is to try to help those projects and then to make them flagships for the rest of the company, to convince the other business units that are not always very, don't know yet how to find the right opportunities. Then we have the more traditional projects where we're trying to influence. So sometimes it works like in claims management, for example. You have, when you have a damage with your car, you have spare parts. And there's a big question about can we recycle the parts? Can we try to tell our customers to reuse that instead of the traditional repair shops? But that's a long-term, so it's more influencing. But definitely, we see ourselves being at the forefront to try to help the business move into that direction, because today, sustainability is still seen, I don't know for you guys, often as a lot of constraints, but not yet, we don't see yet always the opportunity for the business, for the core business.
Maybe to add on this one thing also which is complex in the sustainability part is that it's not, from a consumer point of view, it's not always the first reason to believe in your product. So in our case, for example, it needs to taste good. If it doesn't taste good, you can put everything around, it's not going to work. So the way we go into the sustainability part is more around the convenience, what we call the consumer journey, understanding what are their pain points. And then, for example, packaging will be a key factor, which is, first, the packaging needs to be easy to use, but then, of course, we can add a layer, which will be also, it's more sustainable.
All right, I would love to continue talking, but I'm seeing that we might get shut out of the stage in a little bit. So with that, I would really like to thank our panels, Cristian, Yann, and Christel. It was really a pleasure to share. I'm sure that if you can stick around, you can also chat. So thanks, everybody, for coming to the second Business Prototyping Summit.